So, what if I told you that a simple shift in your mindset could totally change how you create content? Today, we're going to dig into how to stop feeling drained by performing and start feeling genuinely fulfilled by just documenting your journey. Let's just start with a quick question here. Do you ever post something and it just feels hollow? Like, yeah, you're going through the motions, you've checked the box for the day, but you know deep down that there's something way more honest, something more real you could be sharing. You know that feeling? It actually has a name. It's the performance trap. And it's this vicious cycle that just sucks the energy right out of you, not because creating is hard work, but because performing feels so inauthentic. It takes your messy real-life experience and squashes it into something generic. And that's the exact reason it just doesn't connect with people. Okay, so let's really break this down. Let's get into this performance trap. Why is it that the more perfect and polished we try to make our stuff, the less it actually seems to land with anyone? See, here's the thing. The problem usually isn't that your advice is bad or your work isn't good. It's that by polishing away all the rough edges, the confusion, the mistakes, the stress, you make your journey totally unrelatable. You've created something that just feels distant. And that's the core of it, right? When you only show this perfect finished product, you're basically building an invisible wall between you and your audience. You might think you're impressing them, but what you're really doing is accidentally pushing them away. And connection, it just can't grow across that kind of distance. All right, so if performing is the disease, then what's the cure? Well, it's a really simple but incredibly powerful shift in your thinking. Just stop performing and start documenting the reality of what you're going through. And the difference is just night and day. Performing is all about showing a polished final result because you want to look impressive. Documenting, on the other hand, is about showing the real, often messy process, just to be accurate and honest. One creates distance, the other builds a real, lasting connection. So this means you stop chasing that perfect highlight reel and you start sharing what we could call the real reel. And this is where the magic really happens. We're talking about the drafts, the doubts, those slow, frustrating days. That's the story people see themselves in. And that leads us to this really important choice we all have to make. Are we going for connection or are we going for perfection? Because when you start to prioritize the journey, the progress, over the pose, you unlock a much, much better way to build trust and community. I absolutely love this quote because it completely reframes what vulnerability is all about. Sharing your struggles isn't a sign of weakness, it's an act of generosity. You're literally giving someone else permission to be imperfect, to be a beginner, to just try, and maybe even to fail. That is so powerful. At the end of the day, people just don't see themselves in perfection. They see themselves in the struggle, in the progress. When they see your uncertainty and your effort, they don't judge you for it. They lean in closer. They recognize their own journey in yours, and that builds trust so much faster than pretending you have all the answers ever could. So this all naturally leads to a totally new way of measuring what success even looks like. If our goal is connection, then we need a way better scorecard than just chasing likes and views. Now, this might sound a little provocative, but it's a really important question to ask yourself. Are those vanity metrics actually distracting you from the real impact of your work? Well, the short answer is yeah, a lot of the time they are. Just think about the difference between reactions and resonance. Chasing reactions, likes, views, quick comments, that's a transactional, draining hamster wheel. But building resonance, that creates a meaningful long-term connection that is so much more fulfilling. It's the difference between being wide and shallow versus being narrow and deep. This right here, this is the new definition of ROI. The real return is human impact. It's the person who finally starts that project because you made it feel possible. It's the person who keeps going on a tough day because your story hit home. You will never, ever see that on a dashboard, but it is the most valuable metric in the world. And you know what? When you start optimizing for that kind of impact, everything changes. The work stops feeling like a transaction and it starts feeling meaningful again. This is the ultimate antidote to burnout. It's what keeps you creating when the numbers dip or the algorithms change, because you're playing a completely different game. Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem, we've explored the solution, but what does this actually look like in practice? Let's get down to the one simple, actionable question that can guide literally everything you create from this point forward. But first, we have to talk about the biggest barrier, right? It's fear, the fear of being judged, of feeling exposed. But the reality is, those ideas you're scared to share because you think they're incomplete or not good enough, those are so often the exact things someone out there is desperately waiting to hear. Not because they're revolutionary, but just because they're sincere. So the next time you sit down to create something, I want you to resist that urge. You know the one, the urge to look at what's trending or what you think the algorithm wants. Instead of looking outward, I want you to look inward. And this is it. This is the only question you really need. Just think back. Think back to a time when you felt stuck or confused or totally overwhelmed. A time when things just felt heavy. What's the one piece of guidance that would have helped you then? What simple explanation would have saved you a ton of time or heartache? The answer to that question? That is your next piece of content. That's it. You don't need a new angle. You don't need a fancy rebrand. You just need to share what you're learning from right where you are, right now. Because you don't have to be a master to help someone. You just have to be one step ahead.